Libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what a libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not just because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. Larry Sharpe is here, and I left my coffee cup on the other side of my computer, so I broke in my brand today, but I do have it, though, so we are drinking coffee live. Thank you guys for watching, as always. If you care about this, then please like, comment, share. It does matter. I keep saying it because I want you to keep doing it. Don't stop doing it. It does matter. We have to grow. Look, I know that many of you are concerned about the presidential election this year. I am too. It does matter. And on top of that, so do all the local people running. They also matter. In addition to that, we have to support the top of the ticket and also all the way down the ballot, all the way. Of course, so please like, comment, share, get out there. I am very lucky. I have someone who is running locally right here with me today. I have AJ Hamill, who is running for Town Supervisor. How are you, sir?
Very good.
I'm very happy you're here today. For those of you who want more info on AJ, head on over to his Facebook page, AJ Hamill for Maryland Town Supervisor. You already have some people here. Tim's already here for you. See that? There we go. I love that. Thanks, Tim. Appreciate you watching. Tom, local people are more important. Tom, don't be mean like that. Us national people matter too. We all matter. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, local people matter more, probably. You're probably right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I want to say thank you for coming, AJ. I appreciate it. Look, let me ask you the question that I ask everybody. It's an important question for people who are thinking about running locally, for people who are thinking about supporting a local candidate. It's a critical question. There are many ways that you can make impact in your local community, but you chose this year and Town Supervisor. Why? Why this year? Why Town Supervisor?
Well, I wanted to get a head start on the campaign and on running, even though the election isn't until next year. I wanted to get it anyhow and to actually show my community that a town supervisor should have policies when they run and even when getting elected to office, not acting a free-for-all where anything we do says and anything we do goes.
No, I like it. So you're saying you're trying to set policies up now so that when people start really paying more attention to you, which probably next year, right? There'll be more attention to you. Yeah. When that happens, you're ready to rock and roll. You've got it. You've been through it. You're doing it already. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's exactly what you're hearing.
I love it. I love it. So why Town Supervisor versus county executive versus state assembly? Why this specific thing?
Well, I've always thought I would rather have some impact in my community where I can inspire the young people in my community to start getting involved with politics and government, especially with running for office, to say, this is your community. If you care about it, if you love your community, then run for office.
I love that idea.
Whether it's school board.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that when you've brought this message out that the young people have heard it or no? My worry is, right, and look, I'm the old man in the room sometimes, right? So I want to make sure I understand. I have a worry that when you say that to the youth, they think one of two things. One, the only thing that matters is protesting, right? Not voting. That's one aspect I worry about. And the other aspect I worry about is, yeah, I would, but, something cool's on Netflix or my buddies are playing, Call of Duty, so I'll go do that instead. That's my two worries. Are these unnecessary worries or the real worries? Tell me.
Well, I firmly feel that young people, if they want to have their voices heard, they ought to be running for politics. If they don't like something that their supervisor, their mayor, their county executive, higher up office says, then run. If you don't like it, change the course, run for office, and also change the status quo, which we desperately need in the United States. In New York, we've gotten the same blows from the governor. We've gotten the same blows from the Assembly, Senate, and we need to start having young people that are 18 and above to start running for office. You don't like the change? Damn well run for office.
There we go. I like it. So you talked about things that were getting hit by the governor. That's for sure. Absolutely for sure. There's probably, I don't know, 24 different issues you could complain about, federal, state, local, but there's got to be a couple that are more important to you that kind of rise to the top. Do you have 1, 2, or 3 issues that kind of rise to the top here?
Yes. The 3 problems that I have are taxes that obviously federal and state love to divvy out to people. More specifically, taxing the elderly, taxing veterans, taxing farmers, taxing single parents.
Wow.
Disability people, or even caretakers of. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And especially taxing farmers. They don't need to be taxed even more. And if I brought this issue up with the governor, I bet you 2 to 1 he'd be saying, oh, they're contributing to society. Yeah, because you're making them contribute.
That's true. Yes, absolutely. So are you saying when it comes to taxes, do you see taxes as one issue, or do you see each of those 3 as separate issues? How do you see it?
Well, taxes is one thing, but the other 2 issues are more transparency and accountability with government.
Yes.
And I hate to say it, but we're not having it with the federal government, neither the state government.
Yep.
With the governor. And the 3rd one is a lot more diplomacy. We're seeing a lot more hasty verbal argument between people, and we're not having anybody backing them up. And
hold on? Do you mean diplomacy as in between individuals that we're talking to back and forth, or do you mean this as on a global level, meaning United States versus other countries?
On a global level.
Global level. Got it. Okay. So let me cover those 3 then. Taxes. I get it. Are you someone who says, let's end taxes? Are you saying let's lower taxes? Are you saying let's deal with, these people first? What do you mean when you say dealing with the taxes? How does AJ kind of square that circle and make that work?
Let's end the taxes for the elderly, for the disabled, for the farmers, for single parents, for veterans, and even for people that are disabled or caretakers of. They need to stop being taxed.
So I remember I was talking to a gentleman from Kentucky, and he brought up the idea that we should end property tax for anyone who is retired, 65 or older. If you're a senior citizen, 65 or older, you should end property tax for them. And his idea was that you now bring people to retire in the state, right? Because they pay no property tax. So retirees would come to Kentucky because they could retire there with no property tax, buy land, and spend their pensions and spend their Social Security money in Kentucky. So it would actually bring more people and commerce to Kentucky while lowering the taxes. Is that the type of thing you're talking about, or something different?
No, exactly what I've been talking about. I've talked to my grandmother about this, and she flat out said, any elderly person that doesn't have a grandchild in school should not be taxed. And she's 90 years old. She shouldn't be having to pay taxes for crying.
Got it.
I consider it a crock from our government, whether it's local or even state and even federal government.
Got it. Okay. So you also mentioned, though, for example, caretakers. So does that, when you say tax, you mean property tax?
Yes.
You mean sales tax?
Property tax and sales tax.
Wow. All right. So if you drop these, don't get me wrong, I'm happy if you drop these. But if you drop these, of course, you know the attack, AJ. It's going to be, oh, AJ, how can you end these taxes? Who's going to build the roads, right? I mean, you're going to hear that, right? So how do you respond when you go, we're going to lower taxes for the elderly, lower taxes for caregivers and people with disability? How do you respond to that obvious attack on how do you build the roads? Or insert thing here. How do you pay for schools or whatever is the argument?
I'd be saying that they're getting screwed over more times than anyone else is. If you can afford to have a salary that's over $100,000, you can damn well pay taxes. But the elderly and the people that I mentioned before, they're the ones that are getting screwed over every darn day. And every time the tax bill comes out, every time the assessment roll comes out, or something to that effect, they're the ones that are being highly taxed every darn time.
Mm-hmm.
Then with the elderly, they're trying to figure out how to get their next prescription, more or less.
Sure.
And then they get a school tax or a county tax or even federal tax on top of that. It's a theft. It really is. It's like what I would consider it's like saying it's like demanding more taxes. It's like the robber holding the granny to at an ATM saying, "Give me your money," and it's
Sure.
like,
Sure.
yeah,
Now, but when it's happened, all I'm saying is, as a general rule, if you remove government, you have to, in some way, shape, or form, either add commerce or you've got to add community, right? As a general rule. It's not a 100% rule, obviously, but it's a good general rule, right? In the case of my Kentucky friend, he was talking about adding commerce, right? And then that would make up for the loss of taxes. You add commerce, right? Many times when we get rid of other things, we want to add community, which would step up and deal with the issues when you remove government so that the community is still taken care of, but just by local community. Do you have any of those types of plans or issues or concerns that you would either add commerce or add community?
I would add both because, quite
Both.
frankly, Maryland, we need to get more jobs to lower the taxes. And with the problem that we're having currently in the town of Maryland is that with the town, no offense to my community, but with the way it looks, we need to have more of the town supervisor and the town administration to actually start cleaning up the community to make it look presentable. Business owners like my age to come in and say, "Hey, this is the type of community that I'd like to start a business in."
Right. So you're saying make it more attractive for more commerce to come in.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. All right. So let's move on to transparency. Transparency is a big deal. And if you remember when I was running, I talked often about that. I actually said I'd have an office of transparency, right? Literally, I'd have an office for that because there is so little transparency in what we do. And particularly in New York State, I mean, other states I'm sure are similar, but our state's extra bad in that we often have a governor, and then underneath the governor, they create all these committees and commissions and all these groups, and they're not government, but they are government, so they're kind of a mix, so we don't get to see it, but it's private, makes it even worse. You're talking town supervisor. Where is your head on this?
Well, for the town of Maryland goes, putting the town budget on the website to actually show where their money is going towards. I've brought this issue up with our current administration and the former administration, and they said directly that anybody can walk in to look at the budget. Here's my problem with that. If you have somebody who is visually or physically impaired come to the town hall, they have different systems on technology that can help somebody look at it, or if they need it transcribed in Braille, for crying out loud, if somebody's blind, they can at least say, "Oh, this is what our money is going towards."
Right.
The concept of anybody can walk in to look at it is ridiculous.
Got it.
And the other comment that I received was that we're not going to pay an additional $200 for our web administrator to put it on the website. That is a bunch of crap because they're throwing the web administrator under the bus. And quite frankly, an additional $200 should be coming out of the town supervisor's salary, if at all possible.
Right. Sure. I like that. That's good. I love that. All right. So I guess transparency, though, I think it's not just in budget. Obviously, it's in budget, right? But there's more, isn't there? Isn't it also in how decisions are made and, right, who gets what and stopping crony capitalism and your buddy getting everything? And isn't it many more things? I mean, it's the budget. You're right, obviously. I'm saying in addition to that, isn't it even more?
Yeah. And with the resolutions that our town board passes, we're getting a brief segment of this is what it is. Why not have more town hall meetings to explain but where, why, when, and how it's going to affect the people, and then have more community input to say, is this going to work with us? And if it's you have a majority that says no, we're not going to pass it. And I'm sorry,
Right.
these laws are getting made every darn day.
Well,
By
the thing that I like, and this goes back to our now only libertarian congressman in Congress, Justin Amash, is very often when he would have when he'd vote, he would explain why he voted a certain way. And sometimes he'd be voting against what a constituency wanted. But I think, if we actually had what you're talking about, which is real transparency, and we could see the debate go back and forth, and we could see the people talk about it, that even if our town supervisor said no, at least he or she could explain, here's why I said no. You heard the same thing I heard, and here's how I interpreted it, and I think it's a bad idea. Mm-hmm. And then at the ballot box, we can decide, you know what? I didn't like what she said, but all right, I'm still in. Or, no, this is BS. She's gone. So I think the worry that many of them have, which makes sense, is that if it's too transparent, then people are going to be angry about how I vote, and they might punish me. And I don't want to be punished, right? I want to make sure that I'm always elected. And that in itself is a problem, right?
Oh, yes. I just saw Tim O'Connor's Facebook, or his comment saying that the town should have a Facebook page. They do. And they'll post like, oh, this is, like, they won't say what was said at that meeting, but like the town board meeting minutes on this day and what have you. But as far as the transparency goes, here's an interesting thing. And I brought this up on my Facebook page. If the town supervisor is fine and dandy about having the assessment role, why can't he have the town budget? I mean, the assessment role shows what you pay in taxes, how much your property is worth, the whole 9 yards, how many acres. And if he's fine and dandy with that, why can't this budget be on the website? So,
why can't you just Facebook Live the event?
Exactly. Like they'll have budget hearings, but even still, though, things can change.
Yep.
And we live in a technological world where even you can go on Congresses. More than likely, you can find out how much Congress makes every darn time. Even the congressmen and women and the senators, the whole 9 yards.
I'm with you. I get that. Completely. The issue that I like about what you're saying is, in today's world, it's actually relatively easy for us to actually, be that transparent. You saw when I ran for governor, I did almost every one of my events go live. I just did it. People saw what I was saying and what I was doing, and who was beating me up and who wasn't, and who was showing up to events and who wasn't, and who was supporting me and who wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were there at one of them.
Yeah, I saw that. I heard a kid calling you a Nazi and a socialist, or you had called him that, but he was just being BS, calling out BS and what have you. And I'm just like, I felt like telling the kid, save it for somebody who gives a damn.
I like that. Very good. All right, so let's go to the last one of the three, I should say. I know there are many, but the last of the top three. You mentioned diplomacy. This one seems odd to me, running for town supervisor. How does that, and again, to be clear, I know a lot of people running have told me this, but they said, national stuff affects me locally. I've heard people who've been running for Congress. They've said, I've asked, why are you running for Congress when you care about local issues? And they'll tell me, well, because the federal government has its talons in the local community. So I've got to run for a federal office so I can save my local community. I've heard that often. I'm asking you, I'm wondering, why does someone run for town supervisor, a local office? Why is diplomacy, right, a more global issue? Why is that in your top three?
Because we've seen world leaders, how they handle themselves with other world leaders, whether they'll call somebody out on lying to them or whether they'll treat them decently. And especially if it's an allied country, but here's the problem with the allies. If you get one allied country, the head of that country lying to, say, like, you get Germany lying to the United States about something like, oh, we're not doing that, and we find out, yeah, you are, then I think we should be able to talk to them in a diplomatic tone and not in a hostile tone, like the way we have President Trump doing with different world leaders.
But how does that affect your community? Or is this a personal issue for you?
I would say a personal issue, but
Okay.
with the other part, with with diplomacy, we currently have had two administrators, the current and the former, that I would say degrades the public's opinion. They don't want to listen to
I see.
best, and your opinion sucks. Your opinion doesn't make any sense. One of the board meetings that I'd attended with a former supervisor, a kid had asked, "Can we put in a community pool?" The supervisor asked the kid, "How much are we going to spend for it and where are we going to put it?" I would consider that a hostile questioning to the kid because
Right.
what I would rather sit the kid down and say, "Well, think about it." The administration that we have now and the former, it's always, "Yep, let's do it, let's do it," instead of, "Well, think about it."
No, I think it's a valid question. And if you actually would talk to the kid and say, sure, I love the idea of a community pool. The question is, where do we put in the budget? Do we have to raise more money for it? And are you willing to pay the extra money for it? Or are you prepared to give something else for it? Or are you prepared to find another way to, find money for that pool? I think those are good questions to go back and forth. And look, if the community goes, look, we don't want good roads, we want a pool, then the community has decided it's community money. I think it's very true. I get that completely. I get that concept. So let me ask, you've got ideas that you're trying to move forward. How do you make impact? I mean, luckily you have about a year and a half, give or take, right? You've got about a year and a half to make impact. So you've got some time, which is a great thing. I'm glad you're running early. As you know, I ran early too. I started mine in July of 2017 when I ran in 2018. I started a year and a half early also. And I think it's the right answer. I'm glad you're doing it. I hope more people copy your model because I think it's a better model. So how do you make impact in this next year and a half, knowing that for a lot of people, they're going to put your race on a back burner until after this year, right? Most people are going to be like, well, yeah, we love you, but I got these guys running now, so let me focus on them. How do you make impact now?
Well, I've been putting out statements in our community paper, the Daily Star, every 2 weeks about like different things and posting on my Facebook page of policies that I would like to pass. Recently, I put out a post congratulating the class of 2020 by saying, yeah, this pandemic screwed everyone over, but your community highly loves you and congratulates you. But I think since Facebook is more prominent and also our community paper, Daily Star, just keep pulling out statements every 2 months and even putting out posts, like whether it's like once a week or even every darn day.
Mm-hmm. I like it. And over time, you think that's going to wind up going. Well, the other advantages, and the same thing I had, is in 2017 when I ran, a lot of the best talent I couldn't grab until the end of the election year because people were still on those campaigns. But November and December of 2017, I got first pick of all the best talent because everybody was just off of the 2017 campaigns and jumped right on mine. So you'll get the best pick of all the best talent. That's one good thing.
And also, like with the campaigning, I know this COVID crisis screwed everyone over, and especially like as when my name was going to be on the ballot, I would go to talk to people and saying, "This is what I'd like to do, and what can I do if I get elected to help you out?" I'm not saying the answer. I'm saying on a local level, what can I do to help?
Right. I love that.
I have to call county to help with it for a small portion of thing. Fine. If I have to call the state, even though we know the state's a pain in the ass.
Yes, it is.
I'll see what I can do, but that's what I've done, and
I love it. So you're already building relationships now. I love it. So I guess the other thing to remember is you won't have the same fear next year as so many have now. There's a big advantage because people now, everyone's scared. COVID's going to kill you. The Chinese are trying to get us. Trump is going to kill us. Biden's going to kill us, right? Everybody's going to get us somehow, and there's going to be some fear. You won't have that same fear next year. But my worry next year for you is there's going to be a lot of economic fear next year, right? People are going to be afraid. How do we recover from this? How do we get around? How do we, go back to being who we were before COVID, before this entire crisis? That'll be an issue for sure. So let me ask you, do you have an opinion on the COVID crisis and the response?
Well, I think, quite frankly, the way the government handled themselves is absolutely ridiculous, especially with hearing the different viewpoints from Dr. Fauci, who, hate to say it, but I don't think he knows a whole hell of a lot. And same thing with Dr. Birx and the way the Trump administration handled the different issues with saying we're going to shut down the government, and the way the governor handled it by letting the Assembly and the Senate give him all the power to do whatever,
Yep.
shutting down churches, which I have a huge pet peeve with. And the government just really screwed everyone over, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Libertarian.
Yeah.
But the Senate and the Congress also helped with that too.
That's the thing that I always bring up, right? That particularly in New York State, the Assembly and the Senate enabled the governor to do all of it. They didn't fight back at all. They didn't push it all. They helped him. They said, "Yeah, go on, shut us all down." Absolutely true. They really did. I completely agree with you on that. Okay, so you got something else? Go ahead.
You know the expression that we had in the American Revolution, no taxation without representation? I know my family and friends are going to be watching this, but I'm going to ask this anyhow. Where the hell was our government, such as the Assembly and the Senate? Because we're busy paying taxes, where the hell were they? So we shouldn't be paying taxes without them representing us in Albany. Same goes when we've had to sit around waiting for our members of Congress to create a damn bill or something like that. Where the hell was our Congress? I know that they were busy with their families, but even still, though, it doesn't take a frigging genius to go to Congress and say, "Hi, I want this bill to lower what the government says."
Yep.
And
I agree. I love the idea. Okay, so let me move to the elephant in the room, I guess, or the big thing everyone's talking about. Still, what do you feel about George Floyd and the environment that's popped up from his death?
Well, it should have never have happened, because I firmly feel that it was based upon the cop being racist towards him. He did not have a justifiable cause to cuff him, to pull him out of the vehicle, to kneel on him especially, and more or less kill him. That was definitely uncalled for. And I agree with Black Lives Matter of their takes, because I agree with Black Lives Matter of their stances, and that yes, every life does matter, but with African Americans, I firmly feel that they've been screwed over highly, because they're judged on what they do. And with the police goes, we need to have criminal justice reform to weed out who's a crooked officer and who isn't, who's willing to treat their community, their county, their state, the people in general as a whole, and not judge them based upon their race, based upon how they look or how they act. And I think that's what it's also come down to, not only with the police officers, but with people in general.
Okay. So what about, do you have any feeling on the protests, or any feeling on the riots, or any feeling on any of the responses, any of those?
Well, with the peaceful protests, I agree with them. With the riots, as far as that goes, I don't agree with them at all. They're a bunch of troublemakers if they're going to tear down, destroy a business that somebody else built their life up on. And I saw a few graffiti signs going to Cooperstown today, and I was like, this is a bunch of crap. Like, there was a sign that had endorsed President Trump, and somebody threw paint on it. I don't like President Trump, but it was just ridiculous.
Still somebody's sign. I get what you mean. Yes, I get what you mean. Still somebody. I know I had signs taken down when I was running. I hated it. I get that you don't like me, but you shouldn't take my sign down. It's somebody's sign. I agree. I agree. So, all right. So let me go to, I guess, a bigger piece that many people will be asking. Clearly, you're running early. Clearly, you're serious about running. It's local. You thought about this. I hope you win. You also know that libertarians rarely win, but they do win, but rarely. Luckily, in New York State, we had over 100 wins last year, so that's awesome. So at least there's a bunch of wins coming. So if you win, awesome. If you don't win, have you decided what is a secondary win, right? I would say in New York, it was easy for me, right? When I ran for governor, I lose the election, I still get ballot access. So I had a very easy, consolation prize, right? Do you have something similar?
Well, I know with this election, we're having Tim O'Connor, who's running for New York State Senate,
Yep.
and state Republican, who I don't back all of his policies. I respect him as a person, but I know he's running. But I have a feeling that it's going to come down to a Republican. But I'm considering running for county representative on the same token for next year, depending on what the election results show.
So you're considering running for two separate things?
Yeah, depending on who wins the position for senator.
Wow. Why would you run for two offices in the same year?
Well, to advocate by saying we don't need any limited government. Let the towns deal stuff with themselves. If they can't, we need to have minimal interference. I would say 5% interference on the county level. But to actually do stuff to hopefully help the different towns out that are getting screwed over financially.
I'm just saying I'm not saying you're wrong for what you're saying. I'm with you on what you're saying. I'm just saying, AJ, you're asking to do a whole lot. Running two campaigns at the same time and still having a life, that's not easy. That is very challenging. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're trying to kill yourself. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why you want to kill yourself. That's all I'm saying. Get Tim to run again. Bug him.
Oh, don't worry, I will.
Okay. See that? We've already thrown you under the bus, Tim. Sorry.
I'll let a firecracker underneath his butt.
I like it. All right, Tim, we already threw you under the bus. Sorry. Yes. So I like that. I'm just saying it's difficult, right? I mean, running two campaigns is tough. Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing to do. Not that you're wrong on wanting to make the change. I agree. Just a big challenge. So, but I'm saying it's next year, right? Say it's next year, November, and you don't come in first. Mm-hmm. Is there something that you would say, you know what? I didn't come in first, but I still was able to achieve this thing, and therefore I still won. Do you have that?
At the moment, no.
Okay. So the reason why I bring it up is very often, if you have that secondary win, you're able to still announce a victory, even if you don't win. And It feels good.
Like I know it was suggested for me to, like, depending on how the town board election goes, to run for county rep. And somebody said, oh, if you don't win county or town supervisor, you can always take the position on as county representative if you get elected. And I was like, I don't want to run two races, though.
I'm with you. I don't want to run two races. It is just too hard to do. Absolutely. So let me ask you, AJ, anything before we wrap it up? Anything you want to bring up? Anything you want to talk about?
Well, I know with a quote that I'm using for my election is...
Oh, sorry. Yes, slogan. Tell me your slogan. I apologize. My mistake. Tell me your slogan.
Don't play follow the leader, become the leader.
Oh, I like that. Don't play follow the leader, become the leader. So your campaign, and you've said this more than once, your campaign really is about getting others to step up, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. Getting others to step up is really about what your campaign is about. I love that idea, particularly the youth. I can see you're concerned about getting the young to step up and actually run for office. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I do like the fact that the youth are more apt to go protest. I love that idea, more apt to get out there and do that kind of stuff. But I do see that they're less apt to vote and even less apt to run for office. I really hope you're successful in making some change here and inspiring some people to make that step. That'd be amazing.
Well, I know the quote, my late grandfather used to tell me that from when I was little on up until he died. And then I should have used that for my senior quote, but I was stupid to use a friend of his quote that made absolutely no damn sense. But, no, other than that, with running and that stuff, I've highly thanked my mom. She's a single parent. My parents are divorced, and she's gone through hell in a handbasket with health and still is, but she's getting there. And my grandmother, as I said, she's 90. She's had heart attacks. She's had strokes. I've thanked her many times, and she's helped raise me since I was a baby. And with my grandfather, he was my father figure.
Mm.
And with my second middle name, Gordon, that's on behalf of him.
Oh, there we go.
But that's 3 people that I've highly thanked, and it seems like this is the whole frigging Emmy Award.
I love it. I love it. Do I have to play you off now with some music? AJ, I want to say thank you for coming aboard. I appreciate it. For those people who want more information on AJ, head over to his Facebook page. It's AJ Hamill for Maryland Town Supervisor. Reach out to him. He could use your help, right? It's next year, but he still needs your help this year. He needs you to be a social media warrior for him. He needs you to go out there and knock on doors for him, make phone calls, all the things that all candidates need to make impact. And his goal is to inspire the youth to get out there and run libertarian. And that's what I want too. We're on the same page. Everybody, thank you so much for watching. AJ, thank you for coming aboard. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me, Mr. Sharpe.
All righty.